So this may be a little bit of kind of a very different church that where there is intentional efforts to pull us out of our comfort zone. And we're taking a risk by doing that because Harrisburg is a very, very conservative city. And when you put people in uncomfortable positions, they tend to run away and they bail out. You know, I'm not going to no church where they're going to make me talk or I have to expose how I feel. Well, you don't have to, but you have an opportunity to. That's what we're saying. You have an opportunity to. And we've been trusting the Lord. He has been doing this over these years. He has helped us to establish a safe environment where people can ask those questions publicly that you normally couldn't ask in a church, and to have discussion and talk about things that you normally wouldn't talk about on a Sunday morning church setting. Sometimes they're talked about in maybe in men's groups or women's groups or, you know, small group settings. But I felt like the Lord wanted us to do it this way so that he could establish in the DNA, in the very foundation of this church, about transparency and openness and trust. And the reason why that's going to be so important is because as he is establishing us and the role that he wants us to fulfill in this city, other people are going to come in, and they need to come into an atmosphere there where there's trust that's been laid in the foundation. Even if in the years to come we're not able to continue in this particular strategy, they will just know when they walk in the doors because you are here in the foundational stages and you will welcome them. You know, I'm watching already now as you guys do simple, there are little things that you do that lets me and Carol know it's in you. You know, when the doorbell rings and two guys run out, start doing, you gonna get it, you gonna get it. See, we never had that before. Servanthood, where I'm trying to outdo somebody else to serve. You know, God has sent families, more and more families who really want to help and want to serve, want to be a part, not just here in this little room, but we're already thinking about the future of other things that God wants us to do, an atmosphere where people actually feel welcome. I understand that this little setting right here that we have here in this room right now, I understand that this is unusual just from the fact that you got a bunch of people that actually like each other. I'm not boasting about us. I'm just talking about some of the things you guys have told us, where when you walk in, somebody actually welcomes you. Somebody actually greets you. Boy, and I feel this. Somebody actually embraces you. And so God is doing something different here. Different here. We've been through a lot. I can't get into all of that. But now I see how he has softened up me and Carol and made us really appreciative when people walk in the door. When you come from a big ministry like we came from in St. Louis at the time that we left, you had 700 members and 1,000 people attending every week. And we were, you know, I oversaw the staff of 17 people in several ministries. And so when you come from fairly large ministry and you come to a town like this and nobody's really impressed. They're not impressed with your background. They're not impressed with what you did in some other city. They're not even impressed with the pastors that are here, much less impressed with new pastors come to town. And so it forces you to, okay, let's get down to why God has us here. And he took it all the way to just a relational level. Let's build relationships. Why am I saying all of this? Because this is part of what this theme is about for this year. The open door for ministry in hearts and homes. Open doors. And we realize that this is also very different because of our different backgrounds. It is a real challenge. I will admit it's a real challenge to minister because of our different backgrounds and upbringings. I remember when the Lord first brought me and my wife out of the traditional church. I grew up both Baptist and Pentecostal, so I call myself a Baptist-costal who attended Charismatic Church, Word of Faith Church. I've done them all. And when we were first coming out of tradition, we went into what was back then known in the 80s as a Word of Faith church, and the guy would just get up and talk like I'm doing now. And so I didn't feel like I had been to church because out of my tradition, man, we used to, buck and shout and holler and, The choir sang for 20 minutes. Well, sorry, 20 minutes is the song, then 30 minutes is the vamp, Sing it slow and loud. So you go on for 30 minutes. So, and we buck and howl and shout and the organ and the drums, and so you come from that. You don't feel like you've been to church if you go to church and somebody just teach, we get up and walk out. Like, what? What was that? They walking out at the time that normally we just getting warmed up. We're just getting warmed up, and then y'all leaving. And even if there was a solo, if somebody sung a solo in those kinds in that out of that background, the solo lasted a half hour, and then they'd have the nerve to say, "Now for my second song." So you grew up in this thing where you're used to being in church for 4 hours. But the serious drawback was that you look in your everyday daily life and there wasn't a lot of growth. You still were broke. Still, I don't want to just put emphasis on money, but you still were broke. Not just broke with money, but broken in your spirit, broken in your relationships, broken with dreams. Nothing really coming to pass like what we were preaching and shouting and jumping and dancing about. And so go and sit and listen to this guy who would preach for exactly 45 minutes. And I didn't like the style. They get up and they sing songs like what we did today. And he just talked. But I noticed that once I finally got past the style that I didn't like and actually start implementing what he said, then everything started changing for me and my wife. Then life started changing. Then we started seeing the favor of God. And you walk into, I'd never heard words like purpose. God has a purpose for your life. The whole purpose when you grow up in some traditions is just simply to make it to heaven. Hold on here long enough to make it to heaven, which made young people like me think, well, if the whole goal is to get to heaven, then why didn't you just hold us under the water when we got baptized till we drown and go to heaven? If the whole point is to get to heaven, then we can solve that. Here comes another one. So there had to be more to this than just simply holding on to make it to heaven. And when you start discovering divine purpose, the reason why God gave you life and breath, start understanding why he would say to Jeremiah, before you were even born, I knew you. I already knew you. So we're not just living a haphazard, random life.